So I just got some yarn, like a ton of yarn, and I have nowhere to put them. I probably spent about $120 worth on some more yarn, and I literally do not have space for it. But I also do not like having boxes around in my room. It just feels cluttery. So we're gonna have to figure out what to do with them. Over the past 2 years, I was definitely better about not buying yarn that I wasn't going to use. But when I started my little business, I got all of this plush yarn. And then I was like, ooh, let's get more yarn, let's make more ideas. So I just kept getting more and more yarn. At some point, I started buying yarn a lot faster than I could actually use up. I actually have a lot of anxiety when it comes to having yarn sit on the shelf and not be used, just because I feel like it's kind of wasteful. There have been times in the past where I'm just browsing in Michaels or a Hobby these days, and it looks really pretty on the shelf, and I'm like, ooh, I think I can make something with this. And in the past, I was much more strict about, oh, if I don't have an idea for the yarn, I'm not going to get it. Little by little, 1 or 2 skeins, over many trips, it just ends up sitting on the, in the corner of my closet, picking up dust and not actually getting used. I build up my yarn, and it sits there, and I get occupied in my projects because I can only crochet so fast. And then it just collects dust for months and months, sometimes years at this point. TLDR is that I've actually been really anxious about having all this yarn, and I got like, 20 skeins of Premier Basics yarn? Feels really nice, by the way, but when you don't have anywhere to put it, and you can only make tapestries so quickly, I really need to figure out what to do with all of them. The idea that I have for organizing my yarn is using more boxes. Surprise, surprise. But I only have my shelf to put all my yarn on, so that's kind of my limitation, I guess. And my mom used to run a little Etsy shop. So we have a lot of these boxes lying around. And what I'm thinking is that I can just basically make the box, cut off the top, and use it as a really large tray. I'm kind of, figuring this out as I go, so let's just try it and see if it works. Just finished the boxes, and I messed up one, so we are left with 3. And my idea is that I can at least put in the cakes that I'm going to organize with similar weights. And then once I fill up a box, I should be able to stack them on top of one another. So it kind of looks like this. And the weights is just because I feel like most projects, even if you swap colors, you usually want to use the same weight. And if you don't, well, they'll be organized at least. Some of the yarn is actually, unfortunately, attached to projects. So I'm going to have to also recake some of them because I obviously put it aside and I do not feel like continuing them or do not know what I was doing anyway. So if they go back into that shelf, I am just ignoring it and trying to avoid the problem of having to undo what I've done. I was continuing to cake up my yarns, and I found myself knee-deep in untangling my yarn. Normally, I don't mind untangling the yarn. I mind it when I feel like I do not have a lot of time. And right now, it is 9:30, and I can't go to sleep until I organize my yarn because my bed is full of yarn right now. So I so wanted to finish this tonight. I just spent this past 6 hours untangling yarn and I'm not done. And it's 3 a.m. and I have work. So we're gonna stop it here. I do need to get rid of all of that on good. So I'm going to, for now, just pack it in the boxes. I actually really like how these came out. They're really nice and shallow. So, it won't put much in the box. Honestly, at this point, I don't know why I packed it if I could prepare the rest of my yarn. But at least we have a nice and it kind of neatly sets 5 over there. And it's kind of cute. 5, 7. I actually really like that. So we're just gonna pack them in here for now and deal with it tomorrow because I need to sleep. There is a tapestry that I started that I am just cutting my loss for. No more yarn connected just because I have to use it for another project naturally. But it was a L tapestry from Death Note, and I think I'll try again in the future, but this one I just did not like how it was turning out. It wasn't bad actually. If you look at sections like those, and actually I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, this is going into the Scott panel. I love how I'm just pulling out projects from the depths of my cabinets. Just pulled out this. I vaguely remember working on this, I think, last summer, and I think it's supposed to be a dress. I didn't love the color scheme actually, so that's why I kind of stopped working on it. So I put together my first basket. This is the one-piece tapestry basket. My goal eventually is to create this, something like this one. I know there's a couple of other colors, like the pink for the tongues, the red for his, shirt, uniform. But at least we have some yarn segregated. And right now, it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 project yarn bins, I guess, kind of set away. Oh boy. Now onto the board. I'm going to, I think, create a fluffy yarn pile, a thin sport weight yarn pile, and then a everything else yarn pile. Man, I really bought those yarns at some point just because I thought it was pretty. Some of it is extra from leftover projects, but don't know what to do with it all. So, I funneled all my Feels Like Bliss yarn into the box, and I have a few more fuzzy skeins, but I think I'm going to put this with my other plush chunky yarn just because this I wouldn't use for clothes. This is all kind of wearables. Except for this Juicy Couture, which I've never used but feels very soft. So I'm just going to kind of dump it on top. And I think on top of the fuzzies, I want to put all my sport weight yarn. Just because. I began putting my cakes of yarn into this box, and I have a grand total of 7. This is not turning out the way that I thought it would. I need to figure out what to do with all this yarn. On the contrary to my original plan where I thought putting boxes would make things more clear, it definitely makes things easier to organize and to pull out. And I'm only like 40% of the way done. It definitely makes things harder to see because it is not clear plastic. So I basically have some, frankly, a little ugly UPS boxes just holding my yarn, which is fine, to be honest. You know, it gets the job done. Honestly, it is pretty organized. It doesn't really take away my fear of just losing yarn, because I'm definitely going to forget what colors I have. based on this kind of organization system, but I think if I need colors or I'm looking for inspiration, I can just pull one out and kind of see all the weights I have of that yarn specifically easily. I don't think I succeeded in actually organizing the yarn better. The only way to organize is to get rid of it, because I obviously don't have enough space. But right now, this is what it looks like. So I haven't touched any of the plush yarn stuff, although I have added my vacuum stock over here, just because I have, you know, a good amount that I need to get rid of. But down here, there's all the basics yarn plus my thinner yarn, my fuzzy yarns plus my other fuzzy yarns, and then the old medium weight yarns. The boxes definitely let me build up my yarn stack a little more than before, because before it was just all over the place. But I definitely need to go on a yarn ban. No more yarn. Definitely need some ideas for scrap yarn projects, and I need to crochet faster than I can buy yarn, because this ain't working. Too much good yarn out there. And that's all my yarn. Mostly. There's some shitty yarn I actually snuck down there in the corner, just because I don't want to use them because they are scratchy. And if I am able to find a use for them, maybe a tapestry or, I don't know, a bag where you don't actually have to care about how soft it is, like we'll figure out a way to use them. But that is a wrap on yarn. I am seriously getting overwhelmed with how much yarn there is on my shelves that I don't have a plan for. I like my top shelf. That I know what I'm gonna do with. It's everything else, I'm just like, ooh, I don't like having excess. So we're gonna go on a yarn ban, at least for a little while, and more shopping. No matter how good the sales are, there's always gonna be a sale. So if you have any ideas of what I can do with my yarn, please tell me. How was I a person in the past that only bought yarn when I needed it? But yeah, it is 11:42 and I'm so happy crocheting. Bye.